I think this administration really misjudged that. I don't think they thought in a million years that Iran would last this long. Iran, true believers. Obviously, if they have to live in a cave for 50 years, a lot of people over there are fine with it. And Bright, MLS, they're the second largest in the country. And they've come out now and said, hey, you can put a house on the market without an address. You could put a house on the market without a sale price. You could do coming soons, meaning it won't hit your days on market. Welcome to the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate. For this show, we're going to be talking about interest rates. Where are they heading? Also, inventory. What does that look like? And last but not least, we're going to get into the MLS. What is the future of the MLS? So let's jump into interest rates. Right now, interest rates are in the high sixes, a far cry from the beginning of the year when the interest rates were in the high fives. So that is slowing the momentum of what is happening in the market period as far as transactions are concerned. But what is the driving force? Well, the big driving force is the Iran conflict, okay? Until that gets resolved, I really think we're going to stay in the high sixes. Also, the Fed. The Fed is indicating rate hikes, not cuts. But we do have some good news on that front, where the inflation numbers came in lower, and also the employment numbers came in lower. So now there is a 25% chance that in September, the Fed will raise rates, because as of last week, there was a 75% chance that rates would go up, and that's just through, the poly markets, where, it's a predictor of what the Fed is going to do. So we have to hope the conflict will end. I really think this administration really misjudged that. I really don't think they thought in a million years that Iran would last this long. And the big key is, hey, the mindset. Obviously, Iran, true believers, and hey, if they have to live in a cave for 50 years, a lot of people over there are fine with it. So, hey, we're going to see what happens with that. But with the election year, I really think something's got to give. Maybe not, but you would think if that gets resolved, where oil's traded and some relations become a little bit normal, and then we can have the inflation numbers, stay down a little bit, and then also the job numbers stay down a little bit. Maybe we could get some cuts, but I don't know. I think for the rest of the year, we may not get any hikes, or we may not get any cuts, and we really need some cuts to really get these interest rates down a little bit. So, hey, only time's going to tell. Thinking about buying, refinancing, or investing in real estate? I've been a loan officer for 30 years, helping my clients find the right loan for the right property. I keep it simple and honest. If you want real numbers and guidance you can trust, give me a call. Now let's get back to the show. Inventory, we're running around nationwide, just under 900,000 units out there. So there's not a ton of inventory out there, because if you look pre-pandemic, 2019, you were, depending on the time of the year, anywhere between 1.2 to 1.5 million. So we're still under pre-pandemic levels, so we don't have a glut of inventory. But guess what? We don't have a bunch of buyers either. Buyers are really taking their time figuring out, what they want to do. They're being very picky. But on the same token, sellers are too. They have so much equity. A lot of them have the 3% interest rate. They're not distressed, so they're being picky as well. Hey, if they put the house on the market, it doesn't sell, they take it back off the market. They stay living there, or they rent it out. So both sides, it's almost like a stalemate. There's not a ton of buyers in the market, and there's not a ton of sellers, and either side aren't in a hurry to make a move. So, it's kind of crazy, but that's, where we're at when it comes to this inventory and this bounce. And it looks like, hey, for the third year in a row, we're going to be right around 4 million transactions. And 4 million transaction is a far cry that pre-pandemic, we were hovering in the 5 million transactions. So we're a good million transactions off a year. So, hey, we're still, just floating in this real estate market, nothing going down, nothing going really high. We're just stagnant right now. So it'll be interesting to see how much longer we're going to be in this rut, in this stagnation. It's curious. Only time will tell. Now, there's some interesting stats that I was looking at, and this is in the Philadelphia market. This came from Bright. Well, actually more than the Philadelphia market, because Bright MLS is the second largest MLS, and they cover, many states on the East Coast. So, as far as days on market, the fastest moving houses on the market is priced in between $350,000 to $500,000. So that segment of home is selling the quickest, and on average, they're selling in 37 days. Now, the disconnect here is you would think if the lower priced home would sell faster. And that was one of the slowest moving homes. So homes under 250,000 took 68 days to sell, under 250. Now, everybody's talking about affordability. There's just not enough houses in the correct price range, for people to buy. But houses 250 and under are taking almost twice as long as houses 350 to 500, and I was actually talking to a realtor, and I say, why is that? And they were saying, hey, a lot of these lower priced homes, they're in bad neighborhoods, and people just don't want to settle for a bad neighborhood, or the homes are in bad condition and they don't want to do the work, which sort of makes sense. I'm sure if these houses were 250,000 or lower in a really nice area, good school district, they would probably be, flying off the shelf. But hey, real estate is local, and depending on where you're at, if you're in a good neighborhood, a bad neighborhood, or not good or bad, but just say a safe neighborhood or unsafe neighborhood, those kind of things really, really move the needle. Now let's jump into the MLS. I mean, there's a lot going on with the MLS, and this is one of the things that fascinates me the most. Like, what is going to happen with the MLS? And the MLS is the multiple listing services. And there's throughout the country, all different, depending on the regions, different MLSs that are out there. Now, there's players that are now competing with the MLS. You have Google jumped in. Now they're rolling out nationwide. You have portals like Kelly Blue Book, Kelly Homes jumping in to the mix. You have Zillow, you have Realtor.com, you have Redfin. So you have AI. Heck, I can go on ChatGPT and do a search of properties. So you have all this competition going. What can now these multiple listing services, these MLSs, do to stay relevant? Okay, and Bright MLS, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, they're the second largest in the country, and they've come out now and said, hey, you can put a house on the market without an address. You could put a house on the market without a sale price. You could do coming soons, meaning it won't hit your days on market. So I could put coming soons. Now, you've always had coming soons, especially if it's like new construction and the house isn't ready yet. Of course, that would be a coming soon on there. Or, let's say somebody has a 3-4 unit apartment building. It's really hard to let people through because there's some renters in the place. So you may want to do a coming soon saying, hey, we're doing an open house in 2 weeks, because you want to build the hype before, the clock starts ticking as far as days on the market. So, I mean, hey, there's some good rationale for coming soons, but of course, they allow that as well. And also they came out and said, hey, if you have a listing, within, I believe, 24, 48 hours, it's got to be put into the MLS, and you can't syndicate it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to not let, like the chat GPTs of the world, scrape everything and pull that off. So now, basically bypassing, the MLS. If I can go into, chat or any of the AI searches, to see what is available. So that's really super interesting. It's going to be, we're going to see how everything pans out and what becomes of the MLS. Do they become, stronger? Do they morph into something a little bit different? Will these, the chat GPTs of the world, will they, be able to search everything, scrape everything, and you're going to use that as your search engine? Will they bring competition to Zillow? Will Zillow get stronger? Because Zillow is now, you can upload your listings directly to Zillow and bypass the MLS. So it's super fascinating what is transpiring with them. So, hey, only time is going to tell. Well, that's the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Hope you enjoyed some of the insights and just some of my thoughts in general. Remember, we talk everything real estate. You can see this show on YouTube, the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. You can follow on Facebook, Instagram. Give me some likes. I'm trying to get to that 50,000 subscribers. We're super close, just under 46,000. So subscribe, like, really helps the algorithm. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next week.